Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, which I've linked down in the description below, we featured a really nice team featuring Calyrex Shadow Rider as well as Zacian, and some really fun support including Wakandberry, Yawn, plus Helping Hand, Gigantamax Blastoise, as well as Zapdos with Safety Goggles and Roost. So we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today. Thank you once again to Fiona for the team. You can check out details for the team, including a rental and a paste down in the description below. And thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoy, please share your support by leaving a like in the video, and I'd really appreciate it. Question of the day today, kind of a fun one. I want to know if you could create a spin-off Pokemon game, either similar to the ones that we've seen previously or a brand new idea. What would it be in the comment section below? For me, I'd love to see like Pokemon Battle Revolution recreated specifically for competitive play, kind of like a online simulator. I think that would be really cool. But I also really loved Coliseum and XD when I was a kid. That was like some of my first Pokemon games, or those were some of my first Pokemon games. So those would definitely be some of my answers. But let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. All right, our first match of the day, and it is a identical mirror match. It's actually not identical. Oh, that's really cheeky. They're using the same team and in the exact same order, but as you'll notice, Blastoise is actually a different gender. It's female rather than male. So I don't know if I'd actually call this an exact mirror match. There's a very good chance they have completely different EV spreads and items, and if that's the case, that's very, very interesting. The question is figuring out how we want to approach this. Like, I feel like I should be bringing Incin. Getting a speed advantage with Zapdos is really nice. For example, we could go Zapdos plus Calyrex, Zacian plus Incin. I don't think maxing Blastoise is a bad idea either, because Cannonade's really good and it also helps out a lot against the opposing Incin. It's not bad. It's really not bad. But I like playing a little bit more fast-paced here because the idea is we're obviously using the same Pokemon. So I want to use my Zapdos' max airstreams to boost my Pokemon's speed, allowing my Calyrex and Zacian to outspeed them. But I've always talked about this, the idea of like basically pretending like you're using a popular rental team, but actually having your own sets. And if the Blastoise are actually, yeah, the same gender as the one we're using, then I would actually think it is exactly the same team, and it'd be inclined to think we're, there's the same sets as well. So that's really interesting. It's gonna be Rillaboom plus Blastoise. Okay. Now the thing is, with Calyrex, I have Unnerve, so it ignores Wakandberry on Blastoise if you run that. So turn one, I'm leaning towards just going for Dynamax Lightning into Blastoise and Astral Barrage. I just don't know if that KOs Blastoise. It depends on your EV spread. I wouldn't count on it KOing, to be honest, but then it's like, what's the alternative right now? I'm at risk of eating a Grassy Glide and Cannonade into Calyrex. I guess I could protect the Calyrex, but then you can just glide me next turn. Oh, I guess one other play I can make turn one is Dynamax Zapdos, Lightning into the Blastoise, but then protect Calyrex. Because then I change the terrain. Even if you Cannonade me, you can't glide me the next turn. Okay, I'm actually not opposed to that. I think that's okay here. Let's see if there are any switches. No switches. And if you don't max the Blastoise, then Max Lightning might just KO you. Because the thing is, Rillaboom is completely walled by Zapdos here. So that doesn't scare me at all. I wouldn't count on Astral Barrage and Lightning picking up the knockout. I've played into Blastoise before and went for that combo, and it didn't work out very well. So, yeah. Oh, interesting. No max, though. Okay. Well, I might just KO you, then. Interesting. Oh, okay. Well, the lack of Fake Out makes sense there. Cool. This is why, by the way, I feel like we don't talk about Calyrex for the Wakandberry potential as much. But that just gives me such a nice advantage, right? Because it covers for Wakandberry. I feel like they didn't really have a play to like cover for what I went for too much there, but now it puts us in a very, very nice spot, especially with the Focus Sash intact and with us changing the terrain as well. So Yeah, I was expecting Blastoise to max there. Now it also makes it more awkward for them because I think you basically have to max the Calyrex. I guess you could max the Rillaboom still, but That's kind of awkward. And the thing is, now there's nothing stopping me from Airstream into Rillaboom and then Astral Barrage. So that turn one was literally perfect. It could not have played out any better, especially with Rillaboom not going for a switch or like a U-turn into Zapdos to at least pivot back out for terrain control. Because the thing is, now I don't even have to worry about them being max speed Calyrex and losing a speed tie because I still have Focus Sash intact. So yeah, I mean, it's tough for them. I could have doubled up on Calyrex here. Actually, that's probably just a better play, right? Because it's like, why do I have to really care about Rillaboom in this spot? The reason I targeted Rillaboom is because I think they're more likely than not going to be Assault Vested. And so it's like, oh, I just have a knockout in front of me, but they do switch out, which makes sense. And it's going to be Zacian coming out, okay? But the thing is, now I just have a speed boost, right? This is why I prioritize leading this, because the whole idea is to let my Calyrex get a speed boost or potentially switch in Zacian and give a speed boost to that. Yeah, they just go for Astral Barrage. Okay, that's fine. So it also confirms that they're either Choice Scarf or Timid Max. I think it's more likely than not Timid Max, but we'll see. I could have contemplated going for a Max Flare there onto the Rillaboom slot because it would really cover for the Zacian switch in, but I don't mind an Airstream here. And this actually works out even better, let their Focus Sash, because now I don't knock out either Pokemon, but it's like what you really love when you're using Calyrex is getting your opponent's Pokemon to really low HP, enough to a point where then you can finish them off. And I think this game just highlights how good Zapdos can be, because it kind of won. I wouldn't say 1v4 here, because Calyrex was a really good partner for it, but this combination is just shredding through right now. So I still got Incin and my Zacian in the back. We know that they have Rillaboom. I have a guaranteed knockout on Calyrex in front of me if I want to take it. It is my last turn of Dynamax, so that's one thing to keep in mind. You could always switch Zacian out into Rillaboom as well, or you could Max Guard Calyrex. Both of those are options. Flare is a guaranteed knockout essentially onto anything, so I don't mind going for it here. I think I'm fine targeting Zacian here, because Calyrex at least can Max Guard, so I'll just target Zacian and Astral Barrage. The key thing in having a lead as big as we do right now is basically not throwing the game away. So Zacian's going to protect. Cool. And this should just be a double knockout, honestly. So I'm glad to feature how good the Zacian Calyrex duo can be here. I think the main thing that won us this game is that I just had a much stronger lead relative to my opponent. And I think they needed to max Blastoise, to be honest. The lack of a Dynamax made things even easier for me. And maybe they, you know, are Wakamberry, but just didn't think about the fact that Max Lightning could one-shot them since, you know, Unnerve is out on the field. We actually don't KO Zacian there, but that's fine at this point in the game, I think. Dynamax ends now, but I'm faster with both Pokemon. You have to max the Rillaboom, essentially. I don't really even mind that. And since Zacian protected last turn, I can always go for Thunderbolt and Astral Barrage. And I still have Incin and my Zacian in the back, so I don't see any potential way my opponent can come back from this game. Especially, as long as I don't go for Heat Wave, right? Like, okay, here I'm just going to Thunderbolt plus Astral Barrage. What's interesting is, like, do you even bother maxing the Rillaboom because you'd rather go for a Grassy Glide? Either way, though, I've got Incin in the back. I guess the one thing to consider is switching out into Incin right now, but in this position, I know your Zacian just protected, and your Rillaboom can fake out Zapdos or glide Calyrex, but you can't prevent both of my Pokemon from attacking this turn. And even if you get a KO onto something and get a double protect off with Zacian, I get a free switch into Incin, so they're going to max Rillaboom, but that's fine. And ultimately, it's interesting, right? We're running the exact same team, but we opted for very different Pokemon. They opted for the Rillaboom plus the Blastoise, whereas I have the Incin and the Zapdos. Okay. Yeah, Zacian goes for the double, which is definitely the right play, but the thing is, even if you get the double there and Rillaboom gets a KO, well, I just get a free switch into my Incin, right? And this is why getting the speed max Airstream boost was so important, because I'm just trying to outspeed my opponent for the remainder of the game. Now we're up 4-1, and obviously Incin or Zacian can just come out and finish off this game for us. Okay, that looks like AV to me. And they got max Flutterby, so that will decrease my special attack. But yeah, that's the cost of not maxing Blastoise on turn 1. If I had to guess, my opponent was going for a Yawn there onto Zapdos, expecting to survive Max Lightning, and maybe it was a damage roll that was in our favor there. Because if Blastoise survives and gets a Yawn off, it's actually a very different game in my opinion, and significantly swings things into their favor. But now I can just bring out Zacian and Behemoth Blade. What would have been interesting is if we both ended up leading Zapdos plus Calyrex, especially because the Zapdos that we have on this team is not actually max speed, and that can be kind of scary. Because if we're up against an opposing max speed Zapdos, that causes some problems. So now, we can just go for Heat Wave, and Behemoth Blade in itself should just pick up the knockout as well. So yeah, this was like, it goes to show how even if you use the exact same team and exact same Pokemon, there can be huge differences in how things play out because the Pokemon selection in itself is really important. What gets really dicey is when you go for the exact same 4 Pokemon and you just like go for the same moves because like that's just the most optimal way to play the game. But in this game, we had a pretty big advantage because I basically got so much out of my Dynamax and my opponent basically couldn't even Dynamax. And by the time they did, the game was pretty much over, right? Like it felt like the game was essentially over. Turn 1 in itself gave us a huge advantage. I don't even know actually how you could come back from that turn 1, honestly, just looking at it from my opponent's angle, because you just don't have a max option anymore. Maybe you could max Rillaboom there, but even then it's pretty tough. So it goes to show how like one turn, every decision in Pokemon is such a big deal, and that's how you can go from having a huge advantage to being down significantly. And so yeah, we found a pretty good lead, and it worked out well for us. I think the scariest lead that we could have gone up against on the opposing side was maybe them also leading Zapdos plus Calyrex. Incin lead would have actually also been pretty scary. Like Incin Zapdos on their end could have been interesting because I can't do that much damage to Incin, and then you can boost your speed up with Zapdos. So Incin was a Pokemon I didn't really want to see in the lead. Them going with Zapdos and their own Calyrex could be a little bit scary as well, because if I lose a speed type, then you can just Airstream Astral Barrage, KO my Calyrex, and I'm not max speed on Zapdos, so I'd actually very likely, be at a disadvantage there. So those are some leads that I think I would have had a much tougher time against. Or Blastoise maxing on turn 1 to at least get the Cannonade residual off, because then, you at least break my Focus Sash. That could have been a problem. What could have been really bad would have been like a max guard on Blastoise on turn 1, because then turn 2 you can just glide Astral Barrage, glide Cannonade into my Calyrex. So yeah, but either way, we got a really nice turn 1, and it just like blows the game wide open for us. So let's keep things going. Next match of the day here, and we are up against Kyogre, Solgaleo, Tornadus, Entei, Grimmsnarl, and Rillaboom. I think I actually ran into this player while I was practicing earlier today, and they led Entei plus Solgaleo, and it was Scarf Entei, and I had like almost no counterplay. I believe they had Max Lightning as well on the Solgaleo, which made things even tougher for me. It is really hard to beat Entei Solgaleo lead with Tornadus Kyogre in the back because they have speed control, and it's like even if I knock out the Entei, well then you just get a free switch in. Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare to be honest. I mean, I want to lead Blastoise at least for Cannonade. What do I lead next to it? I can't deny Entei from going for a Bulldoze, and that's the problem for me here. Max Blastoise. I'm going to have Zacian Calyrex in the back, but I think this is just a nightmare matchup, honestly. Like, I've even played against my opponent before, or at least the same team, and even knowing what's coming my way, I still don't have a very good answer into it. And that's always just, like, a nightmare. I don't think Rillaboom is it, though. Because I feel like I should conserve that for Kyogre, but it's kind of hard to do so, because I don't want to bring in Zacian or Calyrex this early on, either. So at least in my head, the idea is, okay, I can Cannonade to knock out your Entei turn 1. I maybe just sacrifice the Rillaboom outright, but then I get a free switch in a Calyrex, and at least I can burn you, maybe. Maybe the older alternative is just to give up Zacian, honestly. But yeah, when I played against this player earlier, I was like, this is actually a really impressive duo. Because, like, it makes so much sense, right? It's like you've got Scarf on Entei, so you outspeed pretty much everything. Bulldoze will drop your opponent's speed, and you're immune to Fake Out as well, thanks to Inner Focus. The reason I led Rillaboom here is just because I don't want to give up anything else on my team right now. That's basically it. I guess I could Helping Hand Cannonade Solgaleo. Huh. But then Entei's just free to Bulldoze everything, and then you just outspeed me, so no. I think I'm just going to go for the max. We're going to Cannonade here onto Entei, and I will U-turn out in case I survive the turn with Rillaboom. Which could be the case. If you're my opponent, actually, you probably think, hey, I can leave Rillaboom out on the field right now because it doesn't do very much. If my opponent didn't have Tornadus, I actually think like this is a good game plan, right? Where it's like, okay, I eliminate the Entei, and then bring in the Calyrex, and then I can just spam Astral Barrage. But that doesn't really work out super well because like I'll knock out Entei here, but then they just bring out Tornadus, and then they can just tail in with it anyway. The upside is at least I have Focus Sash on the Calyrex, but this is an example of how you can get rewarded with like good team building, right? Like it's not like Entei, Solgaleo, Kyogre, Tornadus is a really common core, but it gives my opponent a really big advantage in this matchup because I just don't have good definitive answers into any of it. I can't deny the bulldoze. That's part of the problem. I don't have my own tailwind or speed control. So it's like not only is my opponent just already faster than me generally. Well, not really. I mean, Zacian and Calyrex in my hand are faster, but then like the Scarf Bulldoze is what changes everything. So, yep, there it is. No surprise. I don't know. I could have gone for Helping Hand Cannonade on Solgaleo. That would have been interesting. But just doesn't really even deal enough damage where I feel happy about it. I think, like, if I want to win this game, I basically need to stall out my opponent's Dynamax. Yeah, they do go for Quake. Okay. Well, that's not terrible, then. I mean, I still take so much damage, but... yeah, that's because they crit me. Okay, I was like, that's a lot of damage for Max Quake, since we're, like, Max HP Blastoise. That's a little unfortunate, but it happens. Okay, we get U-turn off. Being able to conserve Rillaboom, by the way, actually could be a really big deal. I don't know if Cannonade gets the knockout onto Entei. I would think so, though, so I'm still going to bring out Calyrex here. All things considered, this at least like keeps us in the game. Because I think this is a matchup where I have to play nearly perfectly every turn to win. That's just the nature of it. I would think Cannonade plus the residual is enough to still KO the Entei, but let's see. It is base 150 Cannonade. Okay, good. We didn't even need the residual. I mean, it's probably just max attack, max speed on the Entei, but that's good at least. The downside is that by leading Rillaboom, my opponent takes less residual each turn because they heal back via grassy terrain, but that's okay. The good thing is now I've at least eliminated the Scarf Bulldoze user, so my Calyrex will outspeed Solgaleo. They probably just bring out Tornadus, though. And then you can obviously Tailwind. You also have that special defense boost on Solgaleo, meaning I'm not really dealing that much damage to you, and that's scary. The other question I have is, what is the item on their Kyogre? Because if you're Choice Scarf, for example... actually, if you're Scarf, you could just bring it out right now, right? I'd at least be able to burn the Solgaleo, though, and then I'd get Zacian out, so that wouldn't be that bad. Actually, would I go for the burn there? Like, let's say it's Scarf Ogre coming out right now. Would I rather Astral Barrage is the question. Just for damage. And to reduce damage from Kyogre as well. They do bring Kyogre out immediately. I was thinking they'd go into Torn here, so that's interesting. Okay. I have some pretty big decisions to make here. I think I'd prefer to Max Guard. With Calyrex, basically the question is, do I want to Astral Barrage? Just go for damage, or do I want to burn the Solgaleo instead? I'm leaning towards burning it because then my Rillaboom can survive for longer. And Rillaboom can just glide to KO the Kyogre right now. I just might get doubled up into. Actually, I'm not at risk of losing both Pokemon here, right? So maybe we just attack, actually. I'm down to actually Cannonade and just Astral Barrage here. Especially because I've got Zacian in the back. Okay, you're not Scarf Ogre as well. They go for Steel Spike, that's fine. Should survive a Water Spout or a Thunder on Blastoise as well. The other nice thing is that they set up the Rain for me. Meaning I get more damage off with Cannonade, which is also pretty swell for us. Okay, it's just Origin Pulse. Nice. Okay, not bad. That turn played out really well, all things considered. Even getting a single Astral Barrage off here is really nice, in my opinion. Cannonade's not going to pick up the knockout, but that's okay. I don't need it to. Oh, that's very good damage, though. Wow. I think they faint from one more tick. Okay. What do we think their last Pokemon's going to be? If it were a Rillaboom, they would have brought it out already, right? So I'm thinking it's Tornadus. That makes the most sense. I'm just surprised they didn't bring Tornadus out earlier than if it were the case, because then you could have at least set up Tailwind. I could just bring out Zacian. I outspeed you on bulkier. Actually, I feel like the play is to bring out Zacian and just protect it, right? It does allow them to get an attack off, though. I could also just bring in Rillaboom here and just go for Grassy Glide immediately onto Solgaleo. Does Glide KO Solgaleo is my only problem? They do have a defense boost. They're just such low HP. Oh, I actually think it might survive. I should have brought Zacian out instead. Zacian was faster, so I would have just been able to attack with it, but Rillaboom is slower here. That wasn't the best decision on my end, I think. Okay, we're going to Hailstorm the Kyogre here, and I will Glide, but I'm not seeded here, so I actually think the Solgaleo will survive. I thought it was a little bit lower HP and misremembered it, and that's because it got the Grassy Terrain recovery, and that actually will make all the difference here, I think. I should have brought Zacian out, because I know I can take an attack from Kyogre, and I can definitely take an Origin Pulse. So if I bring Zacian out, then I can just Hailstorm. Okay, Kyogre protects, that was expected, but the problem is if I just lose Rillaboom here for nothing, like what was the point of that? Yeah, it survives. Ugh, that's bad. At least Steel Spike. That's enough to KO Rillaboom. Yeah, I should have just brought Zacian out and just gone Sacred Sword onto Solgaleo, especially because I know I'm bulky Zacian here. I think this was me, like, being too used to playing with Zacian with, or sorry, Rillaboom with Grassy Seed rather than Assault Vest. And I kind of forgot about the, like, just how much the recovery from last turn's Grassy Terrain would make a difference here as well. That being said, I still have Zacian in this endgame, right? So it's still, honestly, not the end of the world, but I felt like if I just brought out Zacian there and just gone Sacred Sword, I guess, like, my main fear was getting crit by an Origin Pulse, but it's like now, well, we'll see. We changed the weather at least. I've got Helping Hand on the Blastoise, which is also really valuable. And all things considered, the fact that we turned this into a pretty close game I'm happy about, because I think this matchup was pretty abysmal. So we'll see what their last one is. Best case would be it being Rillaboom. If it were Rillaboom, I think my Zacian actually just wins. Yeah, it's Tornadus. Okay, that makes sense though. I mean, the thing with Tornadus is you're not one-shotting Zacian here, and you just protected. So my Zacian can just go for the knockout onto Kyogre pretty easily. And I'm going to outspeed you. So you need to go for Tailwind and then crit Origin Pulse. It's basically the win con, right? Good Rain Dance as well. Could go for a double protect. 2 turns of Grassy Terrain. 1 turn of Cannonade. They are at +2 defense, but I've got Sacred Sword. And Helping Hand. So I think here I'm down to just Helping Hand Sacred Sword. I just want to cover for it being very bulky Kyogre. Their play, I think, is Tailwind into Origin Pulse. Hope for Origin Pulse crit. Huh? They didn't Tailwind. Okay. I mean, that just wins us the game, right? There's no way they can win from that. I thought they had to Tailwind there. Maybe, I can see it from their angle, though, where you're, like, thinking, oh, I'm at +2 defense, and if you don't expect Helping Hand, you think you just can survive anyway, so you don't need the speed boost. That would also make sense to me. And so Blastoise having Helping Hand here was incredibly clutch for us. Okay. And I'm just going to Behemoth Blade now. Yeah, I mean, Tornadus is not going to win this 1v1 ever. I guess I shouldn't say ever. Well, we just outspeed you. If you had Tailwinded last turn, at least you could go for Hurricane Confusion and then hope for infinite confusions. But yeah. I will say, though, because I played this opponent earlier, like, I at least knew what was coming my way. The first time around, I tunnel visioned really hard on Tornadus plus Solgaleo. I didn't think about Scarf Entei specifically. So I knew in order to get around this, I had to at least KO Entei. I think they would have been better off just bringing Tornadus first over Kyogre and just Tailwinding. What gave me a really big advantage here is that we actually outsped for a good amount of the game, even though they had a lot of speed control on their end. And, you know, we eliminated the first part of the equation, which was Bulldoze on the Entei, but then they didn't bring Tornadus out, and so that really put me in a much better spot. But I think that team is really cool, and I think, yeah, having both Scarf Entei and presumably Brutal Swing on Tornadus to enable Solgaleo is a really, really strong combination. But this is why I love this Blastoise set. It's so good as a max option, and then it has so much utility after max as well, thanks to Helping Hand and Yawn. So this is definitely one of my favorite Blastoise sets that we've used in a long time. So yeah, let's just look for another one. Next game of the day here, and this has got to be one of the craziest teams. What? Kartana, Rhyperior, Inteleon, Tornadus, Yveltal, Zacian. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm down to lose here. Like, it's such a cool team. I mean, what is this? Like, Lightning Rod on Rhyperior, maybe? Crit Gmax Inteleon? don't know what to expect in the slightest, to be honest. I feel like I should bring Zapdos. It hits almost everything for super effective. 5 of the 6. This one's going to be one of those classic matches where it's like all of our Pokemon are good, but it's kind of hard for me to identify the absolute best 4 immediately to start the game. Okay, so the one thing Zapdos doesn't really want to go up against is going to be the Rhyperior, and Rillaboom covers for Rhyperior. It's just, do I not bring Incin into this matchup? Like, how can I not bring Incineroar in, right? I'm also not opposed to Zapdos plus Zacian, Calyrex, and then Incin in the back. Okay, that works out okay for me. I just, like, given that my opponent's restricted duel is Yveltal plus Zacian, I don't know how I can leave Incineroar on the bench here. So we'll see. But this is just a really cool team. I mean, like, Rhyperior, Inteleon, I have not seen in a very long time, like both of those Pokemon. There were some Rhyperior teams, I think, in Series 11, but Inteleon I don't remember really using or going up against since early Sword and Shield, which has been a long time now. Tornadus and Kartana. Okay. Well, I think this is okay for us. What's interesting is, do you max the... I mean, is it just these two plus Yveltal Zacian in the back? If so, that's not bad for me at all. I don't really care about Tornadus at all. I think it does not do very much for my opponent. Like, I'm down to just Dynamax. Yeah, maybe I should Max Airstream here. Max Airstream, Sacred Sword. It just might not KO AV Kartana is the problem, if they're really bulky. Okay, they max Kartana. Huh. I don't know. Out of all the things we could have gone up against, I think this is actually one of the best leads I could have run into, because you don't really scare me that much. And more importantly, I still have my Incineroar in the back to deal with the late game Yveltal plus Zacian. I just think flaring was probably smarter here, because it's not like getting a speed boost matters when they're going to probably Tailwind on me anyway. And if they're Assault Vested, there's actually a pretty good chance you survive Airstream into Sacred Sword, I think. So, yeah, I should have just gone for Flare. It's like if we knock out my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon immediately, it obviously just gives us such a big advantage. I was like, Airstream could be helpful if, you know, for some reason they don't Tailwind with Tornadus, and then could also be nice to get a speed boost earlier onto Zacian, but yeah, that was unnecessary. Flare was just always better. I don't think getting a speed boost here matters at all. They just go for Steel Spike, though. The thing is that they're still walled by the Zapdos, so, like, I still feel pretty good about my spot, to be honest. If anything, maybe it's actually, you could argue, an advantage that we don't knock out Kartana immediately, because it means my opponent essentially wastes a turn of their Tailwind. I suspect they're AV here, and if you are, you actually should survive Airstream, I would think, but let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I was right in that assumption. But, like, it's fine, right? You're AV. And here's the thing. Now I can actually give Zacian a speed boost, so you'll be at +2 speed this turn. So we'll just Airstream the Kartana and Protect. Now, had I gone for Flare there, well, I guess I could have just gone, like, Behemoth Blade onto Tornadus, Flare onto Kartana. But I still think this is fine, honestly. Maybe the best play, though, was just to switch Zacian out into Incin turn 1 and just Flare Kartana. Get rid of their Dynamax Pokemon. I have Fake Out Pressure there. Yeah, that actually feels like a lot better of a play. The only downside there is, like, I like the idea of doubling into Kartana, because, like, you could theoretically switch Kartana out into, and, you know, granted, it'd be pretty unlikely for them to drop one of the 2 restricted Pokemon, but let's say you switched into a Rhyperior there, which can take a Max Flare. At least Sacred Sword covers for that. Like, there's nothing on their team that would have taken that combo, basically. This is a smart play. I take my words back. They actually decided not to bring one of their restricteds. This is exactly what I mean. Wow. Nice Max Airstream as well. Reading into the Protect. Okay. I mean, how fast is this Rhyperior? Also, who did you drop is my other question. This is such an interesting team. But to be honest, like, I think I have a pretty big advantage here, and I already didn't play turn 1 well enough. Like, I should have gotten a major advantage off my first turn, to be honest. It's still okay. I'm just curious, like, Rhyperior is normally a slow Pokemon, but I wouldn't be surprised if this were, like, jolly max speed, to be honest. Now, the good thing is that I did bring Incineroar in the back, so this Intimidate, this next turn is going to be very valuable for me. It feels a little bit bad, though, because the Zacian is at +2 speed. They bring their Zacian out. I mean, because the other plays, I could just protect my Zacian. Oh, no, I just protected. Never mind. Yeah, with that, then. Like, I think I'm down to pivot my Zacian out into Incin. And it's just Tailwind that makes this so bizarre. Let's see, +2 speed. You're at +1 with Tailwind. Tailwind's up for this. Okay, I'll just flare into Tornadus and switch into Incin here. It's a fairly obvious play, I think, but I think there's not much counterplay here. Other than a double up on a Zapdos, Behemoth Blade / Play Rough into Rock Wrecker. That's the name of the attack, right? I haven't seen that since like the first 3 months of Sword and Shield. But yeah, Rhyperior is honestly a better choice than Yveltal for them here. Yeah, okay, they do go for Blade, so that's good at least. Regardless of whom you target, honestly. Yep, into Incin, cool. Okay. I am faster than Rhyperior, so that's good. This is just a bizarre game more than anything. Like, it is Rock Wrecker, but with Intimidate we survive. +2 speed. Last turn to Tailwind on your end. Roost here is really safe, and Fake Out into Zacian. This is where Roost is so good. Yep, they protect. I mean, I've still got Zacian in the back from my end. My Zapdos will outspeed, so I can just Heat Wave, and obviously my Zacian can just KO their Rhyperior. Even if you're Jolly, I don't think you outspeed Zacian without Tailwind. And they recharge. Tailwind Peter's out, so that's all perfect. Now I can go for your Heat Wave. I want to cover for them being Lightning Rod, just in case. And I'm down to Parting Shot into... Wait, actually, if I were them, I would switch out Zacian into Tornadus. Probably Rock Wrecker again, right? Whew. I think it's fine to Heat Wave here and Parting Shot. The recharge turn is what I can really take advantage of. Maybe they just go for Rock Slide, EQ, High Horsepower. Yeah, they switch. Yep, I think that's the correct play. If I were confident they were Lightning Rod there, I would have Thunderbolted, but I think I just need to respect Lightning Rod potentially. And I'm also fine. Like, Heat Wave is still decent damage with the Sun being up. Enough where Astral Barrage might finish off Tornadus. Oh, they actually High Horsepower. Okay, cool. So Shuca Berry is very nice for us here, obviously. Nice, we don't even take that much. Okay, the thing is now they will get another Tailwind up, but your Rhyperior is at -2 attack at this point, and actually it's time to just bring out the Calyrex. This is what I love about this team. Like, a late game Calyrex that you can serve with Focus Sash means that even if your opponent outspeeds you, you can just survive an attack and retaliate back with Astral Barrage. So from this angle, it's actually probably best for them to go for Tailwind and Rock Slide flinches. I don't even know if your Rhyperior even at +1 speed under Tailwind outspeeds Calyrex, because Calyrex is obviously one of the fastest Pokemon in the format, but looking at their team composition, it makes sense for the Rhyperior to be really speedy, because there's no, like, Trick Room component to the team. So I'm actually down to Roost here, and just Astral Barrage. I don't want to go for Will-O-Wisp because I don't want to miss it. And Psyshock's fine, but I think Astral Barrage, like, they have no switch-ins into it right now, right? And because they didn't bring Yveltal, it makes Calyrex's life a lot easier in this matchup as well. But I gotta say, this is definitely one of the more interesting teams I run into. We played some really cool teams today between Entei, Solgaleo, as well as Rhyperior. Just some pretty unorthodox Pokemon and sets. Yeah, they go for Tailwind. Okay, so I assume it has to be a Rock Slide here. Nice, Zapdos is still faster. That in itself is already a really big deal, and that's why I really value getting these speed boosts via Max Airstream. Roost is so nice because it's like all of the work that you do onto... Oh, and they just Rock Wrecker, okay. That should just win the game for us then, I think. Because it means that I'll get another Astral Barrage off, and the beautiful thing with the Roost is it's not even super effective anymore. And even without it, thanks to them being at -2 attack, I think we would have done enough, but I think they were better off bringing Yveltal into this game. And I actually didn't expect Astral Barrage to one-shot Rhyperior from the range that I was at, but like I said, my guess is that it's just max attack, max speed, and it doesn't have any bulk. And that's obviously pretty unconventional for Rhyperior. I mean, that was one of the most dominant Pokemon in early Sword and Shield thanks to Dynamax and policy stuff. And you would often see max HP, max attack, but yeah, now Zacian comes out, and we can just close out this game. Okay, cool. T-Bolt, no need to risk a miss, and Astral Barrage. I think here it's like, well, my opponent's max option was Kartana. That's one of the worst max options into a Pokemon like Zapdos. And so the fact that they max Kartana over anything else already made things easier. Like, I think, but it makes sense, right? It's not like you can really max Rhyperior when your opponent is Zacian. Inteleon would have been pretty interesting, but that doesn't have a good Zapdos matchup either. So I could totally see why my opponent went for it, but it ended up working out really well for us. And ultimately, I think their team just has a lot of Pokemon have a lot of weaknesses, right? Like Kartana and Inteleon, they're all Tornadus, they're all really, really frail. And my opponent didn't bring Yveltal, which is like one of the bulkier Pokemon on their team as well. So yeah, when you don't have that much bulk to play with, you really need to sweep through with offense, and then their offense wasn't enough to actually bypass us either, making things easier. But this team does have a lot of bulk, which benefits it. So yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. Thank you to Fiona once again for the team. Details for the team are in the description below if you want to try it out yourselves. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.